Hi, I present you a product for processing XML files, SmartXML. SmartXML is a no-code solution that allows you to parsing XML files of any complexity without writing any code. Usually the problem of data parsing is solved by hiring a programmer. However, programmers' time is not cheap and relatively quickly you can write only a parser of some simple and typical documents. Our solution allows you to save your time and money. A day of programmers' work is much more expensive than a basic SmartXML license for a year. Yes, of course, you can try to use large language models such as GPT that can generate code to parse specific files. But what if you need a universal solution instead of dozens of scripts? Or the number of document types and subtypes is such that you need hundreds of scripts. Or, for example, you need very careful control over the data you extract. Or you don't want to bother with writing code at all. Our solution allows you to define document morphology, flexibly extract the required set of fields, load the result into a database. SmartXML allows you to classify documents. You can specify arbitrary data parsing rules for each type. It is also possible to use arbitrary document subtypes as patches for documents already loaded into the database. For example, you can extract an order status from XML and update the corresponding record in the database. In SmartXML, you can describe some ideal document structure and it doesn't matter if some section of the document is missing for processing. Or sections will have a slightly different name or nesting level than expected. SmartXML allows you to build the document to the desired structure. A document can be extremely complex, but you have the flexibility to customize exactly what data should be extracted from it. SmartXML supports multi-model data representation and you can present the result either as JSON or as a SQL query. If you need to represent a complex XML document as a set of linked relational tables, you will need to preserve relationships between tables, to know which table is linked to which other tables, and by which fields in order to run SQL queries. In SmartXML, you can specify in the rules which fields from the parent node should be passed to the descendants. This allows you to preserve spatial relationships between tables and use join queries to retrieve data. SmartXML supports very flexible query generation. So besides simple insert queries, you may need to generate more complex queries. For example, if your database has potentially duplicate records, you may want to generate queries to update them. For this on-conflict.do update queries are suitable for this purpose. Inserting multiple values in a single query is also supported. As it was said earlier, there are cases when it makes no sense to store some documents as separate tables. For example, these documents contain only information about setting certain flags in already existing tables. You can specify the type of documents from which you want to generate only a query to update an existing table. You cannot tell from XML tags whether they store an array of objects or a single object. However, this is not a problem either. You can specify in the settings the names of tags whose contents should be treated as an array. It makes no difference whether the values are stored between tag pairs or as tag attributes. Tag attributes are parsed in the same way as the tag values themselves. If you've worked with XML, you're probably familiar with XSD schemas. You've probably noticed that XSDs create more problems than they solve. Moreover, there may be cases where XSD schemas may not exist at all. With SmartXML, you don't need XSD schemas anymore. You can flexibly manage the extracted data types and perform very tricky type conversions. For example, you can evaluate words like yes or no, on or off as true and false logical expressions. Due to the fact that SmartXML has a tiny natural language processing engine built in, you can perform some rather complex text evaluation operations that cannot be done using regular expressions. Of course, the built-in NLP engine is not even close to full-fledged language models, but it is extremely fast and can be useful in cases where the text to be extracted has a regular structure. For example, you can evaluate the text for the presence of certain keywords and based on that, instead of sending the full text to the database, send only a true or false flag. A big advantage of SmartXML is that its built-in NLP engine rule system can be extended by using large language models such as GPT. You can ask the bot to generate a specific parse rule instead of writing it yourself. For example, if a text string has some regular patterns, you can extract data from it and place them as separate columns. You can think of dozens of use cases for the built-in NLP engine, ranging from trivial data partitioning by columns to data cleaning and masking. Thank you for listening.